Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Brown, and I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I've been here all my life, and I've lived other places, but Portland is home, always will be home. I would like for you to introduce yourself. We'll start with Mr. Foster over here.
Hi, my name is Bernie Foster, and I publish the Skinner newspaper, and I've been publishing that paper since 1975. And I know one of your questions you want to ask me, why was I born here? No, I came here to do specifically what I'm doing right now, and that's to publish the Skinner newspaper, and I'm very proud of it.
Thank you. And this beautiful young lady over here.
I'm Ella Maney, and I'm from Portland. I was away on the East Coast for about 10 years, but other than that, 50 plus years here in Portland.
And this beautiful lady over here.
Well, thank you. Hi, I'm Kate Turan, and I was actually raised in Northeast Portland in this neighborhood that we are in this morning. In addition to that, I'm the middle daughter of Ben and Mary Rose Dean, who were the founders of Dean's Beauty Salon and Barber Shop. And Kim is being a little bit modest because Kim is the owner now, and she is the oldest grandchild of my parents. And so we are very pleased to be able to continue the legacy and to share with the larger community what we are doing in this community.
Thank you, Kay. Mr. Foster, would you like to tell us why you set up shop in Northeast Portland?
Oh, well, it's simple. I came from a long line of black publishers throughout the country, and prior to that, I served some time in the Air Force and ended up out here, and found out that I got out of service, went back to St. Louis, Missouri, stayed about a week, and I decided that no, this was not where I wanted to be, and I ended up back out here, and just taking the skill that I had working with newspapers. And by the way, this was the time of the Kerner Report, and I'm looking at some of the people in this room right here probably don't remember the Kerner Report.
No.
The Kerner Report was to say at the time in the early 60s when they had the riots, why was there no black writers in the newsroom at that time? And I had a strong marketing advertising background. And I knew that if I had been in the newsroom, there was a certain amount of control that was going to take place being in that newsroom. Being a strong marketing background in advertising, you know that newspapers are business.
Right.
So I knew that if I started, I didn't want to be in the newsroom. If I started low, I could hire my own writers.
Right.
That's where I started. Okay. And that's how me and my wife made the decision to open up. And by the way, one of the offices is 2337 North Williams Avenue, about 2 blocks from here.
Right, I'm familiar with that area. Okay, we'll start with you, Kay. And how was it growing up in Northeast Portland, in the Elliott neighborhood?
In the Elliott neighborhood, we didn't call it the Elliott neighborhood when I was growing up. It was Northeast Portland. It was a part of the albino community. It was an intact, close community. All of the families had some connection with the South. Many of the families, like my parents, were part of the Great Migration from the South, coming to what they believed would be a better place in terms of racism and discrimination. And we were all located right here in this neighborhood. So all of our neighbors were black. Most of the businesses that we patronized in terms of the first purchase was black, and that was a principle that my parents have. You spend your first dollar with a black business, and most of them were connected with one of the black churches. Our church was like maybe 3 blocks away. On Sunday, we were in church from 9 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. So it was a very religious community, a very protective community. There was a very vibrant Catholic community here. My close friend came from a family who her lower education was one of the Catholic schools in the neighborhood. So it was an intact, wonderful community. I had nothing but fun and remember a wonderful childhood.
Thank you, Kay. And I'll expound on what Kay was saying as well as growing up in Northeast Portland, because we come from 2 different generations. They're close, but not completely. And this was the best neighborhood to ever grow up in. We didn't live in this neighborhood. We lived maybe 10 blocks from here, but the community was so intact that way back in the 1970s that we walked up and down the street, everyone knew who you were. Those are Miss Dean's grandkids, or those are so-and-so's grandkids. And so we always had a sense of community in this neighborhood. You know, we went to Immaculate Heart. I expounded again on the Kay's Catholic part. We had the Catholic school that was which is a secret, was a predominantly black Catholic school right here in Northeast Portland, the Immaculate Heart. And so we were always protected. Everybody looked out for one another, and it was just a thriving black community that we're lacking in this area now. And I'd like to ask you, how was it growing up for you in Portland?
I grew up in Walnut Park, and it was all black community, very close knit. All the neighbors knew you. If you did something you weren't supposed to, any of the neighbors could correct you and send you home and told you to tell your parents what you'd done, you'd get corrected again. Absolutely. So very close knit, and you could be outside. Everybody knew when the lights came on, you needed to be headed home. Right. And again, everybody looked out for everyone else, and it was a comfortable neighborhood. You felt safe in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. Does everyone live in the neighborhood it's now? Or in Northeast, I should say. Well, Northeast is a large area. Well, people say Northeast, and it's a really large area. We're talking about inner Northeast, the Walnut Park, Irvington, Elliott, Albina. But does everyone still live in this community?
I live in the house I grew up in.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Well, I'll answer in a different way.
Okay.
I remember when I first opened up in 1975, I remember really clearly that most of us working right here in Northeast were not living past 33rd.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I remember that real distinctly, and this is from an outsider standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of the jewels and some of the nice places all along this avenue were just amazing. And just take a look at it now. So I'm going to add another element to it. People need to really take a look at what's happened to the property displacement. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a big issue. And just look at it now.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. And it's not going to change. It's only going to increase. So this is the second downtown. Mm-hmm. The second downtown. So I'll say this. So people, if you don't do anything else, if you got a single block, 3 or 4 of you get together and work with some of the people that do development and develop that property yourself. Yeah. Because these boys that's coming in and they're building high. They're not building out. Right. They're going up.
No, you're exactly. That was my next question. And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No, you did a great job, because that was actually my next question. I was going to ask, what is the new things that you're seeing in Portland that you like or dislike? Because just being here in this location all of my life, all 61 years of my life, I've seen a major shift, and it's not pretty. It's like he said, we need to get 3 or 4 people together and to build ourselves, because at the end of the day, we can't come back into the community. I still live in the community, but for the most part, my children are having a hard time, because they want to live in the Northeast and they can't. So, what would you say, Ella?
Well, I agree that we need to pool and purchase together. I live in the house I grew up in, and my sister was fortunate enough to move back into the neighborhood. So we live in the same block.
Nice.
But we are the only black families in our block. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is you come out of your home and children whose families have moved into the neighborhood, they run. And the families look at you as if we don't belong there.
Absolutely.
You're the interloper.
Yeah. I'm thinking, no, I've been here.
Yeah.
You've moved in. This is my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
That you have come into. But
what I was going to say, what we didn't know at the time we were living here and being raised here, is how desirable this property was. Mm-hmm. This is a part of part of Portland that's in close proximity to downtown. It's in close proximity to the airport. It's in close proximity to the freeway that will take you to the mountain and also to the coast. And so people really wanted to be here, and they are now here. And in doing so, they did displace many black families who are now out in East County,
yes,
which is far away from almost everything. And even up until recently didn't have adequate public transportation. So it's been a real transformation in that sense, a real displacement and a removal and a replacement of families who realize just how desirable this land is.
One thing I recall is I remember having friends who were trying to purchase property in Northeast Portland because they wanted to start businesses and they couldn't get funding. And it's interesting, the same organizations that would not give them funding are giving funding to other organizations, other people who have moved in.
Us.
Yes, that don't look like us, who've moved into the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
What Mr. Foster talked about is, coming together and working together as a people. When my mom and dad made the decision to build on this land here, it was a vacant property. My dad could not get a loan from the traditional financial institutions, and there were two lessons that we heard from them all of the time as children. Maintain perfect credit, because if you have perfect credit, you can do what you want to do. And secondly, always subscribe to some form of excellence. But that perfect credit did not translate into him being able to get a loan to build this building. And it was actually a Jewish person who heard my dad's story. He would today be called, the horrible term of a loan shark, but he recognized that my dad had a vision. He had skill set. He had enough of basic funding to be able to put down a deposit. So that loan shark, in quotes, was the reason my dad was able to get that initial loan to build this building. And so he was always so appreciative of that. But one of the things my mom and dad did is that almost all of the tradesmen that worked on this property, they were all African American. Yeah.
And that was one of the things that was stressed to us as children by my grandparents was always, and Kate mentioned it earlier, always buy black if you can. And so I noticed that when I have a tendency to, on Facebook, is when someone is selling something, or a friend of mine, or even their kids, or anybody, I'm always like, oh, you guys should buy this, you should buy this, you should buy that. And people don't understand that was inbred in me as a child, that we are supposed to support each other. And, because we're so spread out now, it's hard to find out who's doing this, because we're doing all kind of crazy things in this city that are just amazing, but we don't know all the things, we don't know all the connections. I'm sorry, Mr. Foster.
No, I'm just going to add something. You were saying something really, really important. I think Kay alluded to it, about the displacement where they are. And I think one need to be thinking about these freeways that's coming through. The freeway and I-5 is going to be changing. All of that's going to change. All of this is going to be changing in the next 10 or 12 years. One of the things that's already in place, and I just want to say, I get no, and we don't have to go very far to do this. There are people here that really do that. And you talk PCOI, they put property together, 4 or 5 pieces of property together, and help you build. They know how it works. Now, I don't get nothing from this other than the fact that there are people that do this. I don't know how to do it.
Right.
But people need to find the people that they trust and have some interest into it. And a lot of times you don't need a lot of revenue to do some of this stuff. Homer Williams and some of them other people, I shouldn't call them people, but Homer Williams and those people that really helped build and got very wealthy on some of those kinds of property. And I think Kay would allude to that. It just got, and what's happening in the last 10, 12 years, the city really have saw that and sort of now kind of trying to make some amenity to it. So we just need to be a little proactive and work with people that know how to do this. And there are people out there. And for those that hear me right now and don't know how to get hold of these people, if you mind if I give my email, because
Absolutely.
You can send me at bernie@thescanner.com, and I will make sure that Kim Mulder and those people get that information. It's bernie@thescanner.com. Because this is, and I want to commend you guys for doing this, because this is really, really important for what's coming down this pipeline. And it's just unbelievable.
This has been a really good time to talk to everybody. Bernie has went through all my questions. which is perfect because the conversation is flowing, and I'm appreciative of everybody's participation. But Kay, do you have anything that you would like to add to what Bernie said or Miss Ella has said?
I think probably one of the things that's a reality is that the Black community now is all over Portland, all over Multnomah County, and probably all over the Tri-County area. You know, it's say follow the Black beauticians. Well, we now have Black beauticians in Beaverton and Washington County and other places. So we know we are all over. But if there's one message that I think is important for all of us to embrace, and that is the importance of land ownership. Don't be quick to sell your land. Don't be quick to sell your property. Property is going to be there today and it'll be there tomorrow. And I think that's one of the things that we may not have recognized many years ago is that people will buy your property and once it's gone, it's gone. And I would encourage people that once you buy your home, hold on to it and leave it as a legacy to your children and your grandchildren.
Absolutely. And just like you've done, you've lived in your mother's home, your
Right, my
parents'
parents'
home.
home.
And my mother has a home as well, even though she lives with me and we rent it out. But there's no way we grew up in that house. That's like, even with the man renting it, every time I drive by, I go, what's that man doing in my house? And then I live in Concordia, and that neighborhood has changed. When I first moved in Concordia, they were saying that, oh, it's gang activity to the east of you, and Woodlawn Park is this and that. And well, I guess they didn't give the same memo to the other people that moved into the neighborhood because
they bought the land.
they bought that land. And they're there. And I'm like, hi, every single day. But, my children grew up there. I tell my grandson is 2, and when I bring him down to the shop, I walk around the shop and go, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, actually, this is all yours, little man. They did this for you. That's what generational wealth is. And I think that a lot of times people think that generational wealth is supposed to mean that you're filthy rich or you're really wealthy, but what it is that you have something to leave to your children, and that you take that equity out of that property and you can use it to help them buy something. There's so many different avenues to generational wealth, and so I appreciate everybody's comments. I appreciate what my aunt said, and I kind of just lean towards what she says because we are two of the same. And Mr. Foster as well. Ella, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, I agree with everyone here that we need to support each other, support the businesses, and keep your property.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have nieces and nephews, and my daughter doesn't want anybody else in our house. My son, he's 15. He of course wants to. I want to move to LA. Why can't we go to LA? He, sees the excitement. And my daughter, who's 17. She feels that, it's just so important. And I'm glad that she has that same mindset. Right. And that I have nieces and nephews who have that same mindset that, it's the family home. We need to make sure we're going to own the home, but that somebody will be living in the home that's a family member.
And the thing about us, I'm pretty sure that are you a first generation Oregonian? Your parents came from somewhere else, or were they born here?
My father was born here.
Nice.
It's my understanding he's the first Black child born at Emmanuel Hospital.
Wow,
Oh, really?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my mom's from Montana.
Okay.
That's an interesting element. I was going to talk about the first Black hospital was 2337 North Williams Avenue. And that was done by Dr. Paul Marshall.
Okay.
Dr. Paul Marshall. We was in that building. And I was in that building for 10 years. And a month didn't go by that somebody didn't come in there and ask what the doctor in.
Oh, really?
That's right. And Dr. Marshall died. He became sick, lost the building, and later on we bought it. And it was the first breakfast program that was started by Kent Ford.
Right.
The Black Panthers.
For the Black Panthers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, nowadays, the school does it.
Yes.
Right.
The school does it.
And they adopted that from
They
the Black
adopted that
Panthers.
program. And you can take the lottery. We used to call it the numbers.
Right.
And I got a whole history of that one. So, And we don't get very little out of the lottery, although we play the lottery 20 times more, because I did the numbers in 1918, in 2018, and it's more now. But black folks, we comprise about 4% of the population here in the state, but we play the lottery 20% more than anybody else.
Wow.
I bet you there's no contract or anything else. So, and Kay would probably agree with me on this one. If we're gonna get a new governor in the next year or so, I think we black folks should be telling the new governor, everybody that want to apply for their new job should reapply.
I agree.
It should reapply, and make sure when you talk to you guys, say that and tell him or her what you expect out of those state agencies.
Okay.
And Kay can tell you a lot more about that than I can, because she knows how that stuff works.
Well, I want to thank everybody for contributing to our little round table. And Bernie, thank you for all of the great advice, the sage advice. Kay, Auntie Kay, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And it was very nice to meet you. And thank you very much, Ellen.